Kumusta po kayo? Welcome back. Let's continue our journey in learning a beautiful language, Tagalog, the language of the Philippines. In the last several videos, the last 10 videos to be exact, we have reviewed the Tagalog case markers, which are words that are used to help a noun stand and announce what that noun is all about. We have learned that there are different case markers for common nouns, proper nouns, and whether they are the focus or not the focus of the sentence, and whether they are in the singular or in the plural form. I hope you've gone through those videos so that you'll appreciate how critical those markers are in the Tagalog language. In this video, I will be going over some tidbits about how to better use the Tagalog case markers when combined with verbs to form meaningful Tagalog sentences, something that won't lead to any misunderstanding. This video won't be very extensive, but I will cite a few examples so you'd have a clearer picture. In our review of the Tagalog case markers, I told you that some markers work well with certain types of verbs when they are used with the subject of a sentence. Like the mag verbs works best with ang mga, si, and sina. And that the e verbs work well with ng mga, ni, and nina. But what happens if you mix them up? Well, let's take a look. Let's use the verb nagbigay, the completed form of the infinitive verb magbigay, to give, an actor-focused verb. Let's start with simple phrases. Remember, mag verbs are actor-focused verbs which focuses on the actor or the doer of the action. Let's take a look. Nagbigay ako. I gave something to someone. Nagbigay siya. He or she gave something to someone. Pretty clear, isn't it? Remember that ako and siya are group 1 pronouns that are used with actor-focused verbs. Now, let's use the subjects with ang and si. Nagbigay ang babae. The lady gave something to someone. Nagbigay si Marie. Marie gave something to someone. As you can see, the direct markers ang and si work well with the verb nagbigay, an actor-focused verb. But what happens if we use an indirect marker, like the indirect marker nang? Let's see. Nagbigay ng babae. Someone gave someone a woman. What's happening here? First, ng babae is the object and not the subject. It is the object that receives the action from the verb nagbigay, gave, or in this context, given away. The subject in this phrase is not mentioned, but the phrase can stand on its own and can mean what is said, that someone gave someone a woman, which sounds terrible on many levels. Now, let's try the indirect marker ni. Nagbigay ni Marie. This is an incomprehensible phrase. It does not mean anything. A Filipino listener will readily spot that the speaker misused some words here and will certainly ask the speaker to clarify. So, ni with actor-focused verbs is not possible. Ayos ba? So far, so good? Now, let's go to an e verb, an object-focused verb. Let's use the verb ibinigay, the completed form of the infinitive verb ibigay, to give. Remember, object-focused verbs emphasize on the object of the sentence. Ibinigay ko. I gave something to someone. Ibinigay niya. He or she gave something to someone. Ko and niya are group 2 pronouns that are normally paired with object-focused verbs. Now, let's use the indirect markers nang and ni. Ibinigay ng babae. A lady gave something to someone. Ibinigay ni Marie. Marie gave something to someone. As you can see, the indirect markers ng and ni work well with the verb ibigay, an object-focused verb. What happens then when we use ang and si? Let's take a look. Ibinigay ang babae. The lady was given to someone. Ibinigay si Marie. Marie was given to someone. Again, a terrible thing to do. The problem here is that ang and si are markers used to accompany the object and not the subject in a sentence with an object-focused verb. Remember, subjects for actor-focused verbs are attached with the direct markers ang and si because they are the focus of the sentence. Let's take a look at these examples. Nagbigay ako ng tinapay sa bata. I gave a bread to the child. Nagbigay siya ng tinapay sa bata. He or she gave a bread to the child. Make sense so far? Nagbigay ang babae ng tinapay sa bata. The lady gave a bread to the child. Nagbigay si Marie ng tinapay sa bata. Marie gave a bread to the child. So far, the sentences make sense. Let's attach the indirect marker ng to the subject. Nagbigay ng babae ng tinapay sa bata. This sentence doesn't make sense. It's incomprehensible. In order to make some grammatical sense to this, you can use the direct marker ang with the subject, which is our earlier example. Nagbigay ang babae ng tinapay sa bata. The lady gave a bread to the child. Or use ang with the object. Nagbigay ng babae ang tinapay sa bata. The bread gave a lady to the child, which also doesn't make sense. How about the indirect marker ni? Nagbigay ni Marie ng tinapay sa bata, which also doesn't make any sense. This proves that nang and ni won't work with actor-focused verbs. But what about object-focused verbs? Subjects for mad verbs are attached with indirect markers nang and si because the subject is not the focus of the sentence. The focus is on the object. Hence the name object-focused verbs. Let's take a look. Ibinigay ko ang tinapay sa bata. I gave the bread to the child. Ibinigay niya ang tinapay sa bata. He or she gave the bread to the child. Make sense? Ibinigay ng babae ang tinapay sa bata. The lady gave the bread to the child. Ibinigay ni Marie ang tinapay sa bata. Marie gave the bread to the child. Still makes sense. But what happens when you use the direct markers ang and si? Let's take a look. Ibinigay ang babae ang tinapay sa bata. Ibinigay si Marie ang tinapay sa bata. These sentences don't make any sense. No one will understand these statements. You can modify them to ibinigay ang babae ng tinapay sa bata. A bread gave the lady to the child. Or ibinigay si Marie ng tinapay sa bata. A bread gave Marie to the child, which still don't make any sense. So how do you make sure that you are using the right case marker then? Well, you can start with this table. This will work with most situations. Just remember, sa is for unnamed nouns. If that noun has a name, then use kay. Also remember that this table will work best with mag verbs and e verbs. There are other patterns that will work well with other verbs, and we will be talking about those in future videos. Learning a new language can be challenging, but definitely be rewarding. Take my advice. Always practice with your Filipino friends, partners, or family members. they will be more than happy to help you. That's about it for now. I hope you learned something new today. And if you did, please hit the like button because that will help this channel a lot. I will see you soon. Maraming salamat po at hanggang sa susunod.